Back in the garden, Laurie starts stripping the original 1302 engine.
Oh, nice. The VW world has changed now to the point where people spend £7,000 on an engine. People keep taking a neck like this off and putting a nice spun posh aluminium one on. When I was working in the 70s, £7,000 was a house. This is the best breather that ever went onto a Volkswagen. You don't need a new one.
Everyone's here to understand how the engines are put together, and so that people don't have to fork out a hell of a lot of money to get a simple rebuild done on their engine.
Right, cylinder heads. If a head hasn't cracked within 20 or 30,000 miles, it isn't going to. And it's also quite a nice one, on account of the fact that it's a genuine VW one.
Just because a part is new doesn't mean it'll work better than the original. Laurie's brought with him this broken cylinder head manufactured in Brazil.
That's your new head with 15,000 miles on it.
For Laurie, it's all about making decisions, and every used part is scrutinised. Lifetime experience tells him what's reusable or not, but for the amateur, there's always the manual.
If something's slightly worn, within the tolerances that VW give in their manuals, it's going to be okay.
Despite not driving himself, Hitler's original vision was to produce a reliable, fuel-efficient family car that was cheap to repair. The result surpassed all expectation, and this Porsche-built engine became generally regarded as the best of its age.
I've been pulling Beetle engines apart for 30 years, and I'm still excited when I pull one apart. Because I want to know what's going on inside, I want to know what's gone wrong, I want to know what's happened.
Lee can see where Steve went wrong with the welding, and his first task is to sort out the right-hand drive conversion.
The work around the steering column, which is obviously very important, wasn't really up to scratch.
It was the first time Steve had attempted this particular job, and he got most of it right. But safety comes first, and Lee has no option but to remove this panel and weld in a replacement.
This is the original column out of the bug, and we're going to install this later column. It gives it a nice new feel.
Some parts from the old column will be used on the new one, which came out of a Polo. This will now fit snugly inside the original collar, giving an authentic look but a modern feel. With that job out of the way, Lee can now start tackling the dash. However, the top-spec digital dials and gauges haven't arrived from the States, and he'll have to use a lot more guesswork.
And I was expecting it all to be here, else I wouldn't have even entertained having it this week, at all. But if he's got a deadline, it's got to be done, innit?
With engine builder Laurie's modifications, the lad's new engine will also be unique.
Right.
But Rich isn't convinced that this is the best environment for the job.
I'm a bit dubious about what we're actually going to achieve today. We're doing this in the garden, others are done in a completely clean workshop where the parts are cleaned like 5 or 6 times before they're even put together.
Right, this is your 2.1 water boxer crank.
Laurie's building the new engine around a standard 1600 case. But this crank is out of a bigger Volkswagen engine and has a longer stroke than the original, so the case has been cut to accommodate it.
This is a budget engine. This is having new bearings, having new valves, new rings, and the rest of it is second-hand.
The original engine was designed by Ferdinand Porsche and became the base for most early production vehicles. The two companies have collaborated on many projects over the years, but Steve's wife Kirsty is happy he's sticking with a cheaper option.
Well, he's always had a hankering for one of those, but I've drawn the line at that. No.
And with the cooperation of the VW community, money can be saved on labour as well as parts.
He'll do a bit of welding for someone, and that means that they'll do a bit of engine work and that kind of thing. But I think it's more the time element, that while he's out there playing in there, I could have sort of like, you know, kitchen painted or a bedroom wallpaper stripped or something like that.
To do these.
On mates rates, Laurie's put this engine together for only 600 quid.
The exhaust was about 80. Tin oil we just picked up for like £1 a piece. It's cost us about 40 quid to get it powder coated. It probably works out about 750 all in.
It's actually going to be a very torquey motor, but it's not necessarily going to be a big screamer.
Laurie's not going anywhere until he proves this engine will run. And because it doesn't need a radiator, he's going to attempt to start it on Steve's lawn. Customisation is not such an exact science. For Lee, it's all about thinking outside the box.
This is the fascia for the dashboard. It's a steel plate that's going to go in front of all the original equipment.
Having the best tools at hand certainly helps. This plasma cutter alone costs about £1,000, which is the same money the lads are paying to get all this work done. With this job, Steve's given Lee free rein to express his artistry.
Literally, he'll be able to just pull it down as he wants to view it, push it back up with a small securing device on the back to stop it rattling down while he's driving.
Without the original to hand, Lee's had to borrow this game's console from a mate.
All we need to do really is cut an access hole here.
New cars have teams of specialists working on single components during months of rigorous testing. Lee designs and fabricates in hours, continually assessing how any changes he makes will affect the rest of the car when it's finally on the road. He'll be relying solely on experience, but with custom work there are no guarantees. Luckily for Lee, the lad's high-tech digital dials have finally arrived, so he can start on the dashboard.
The instruments he bought are absolute top class, they really, really are. On custom fabrication, every job's different, there's not one the same. If someone comes afterwards and says, I want a dashboard like Steve's, I wouldn't do one the same because they own that custom car and they don't want someone else with their dashboard.
The flat 4 air-cooled engine was developed 70 years ago and as standard puts out around 40 brake horsepower. With the new crank, modified carbs and exhaust, it should put out almost twice that, and because the main components are pre-used, it won't need much running in.
It'll be ready to go anywhere in 15 minutes. Once it's settled down, once the tappets are redone and it's ready to go.
Getting the engine sorted is a big step forward, but the deadline is starting to cause the lads some concern.
My thoughts at this time are no chance in a million years of getting this ready for Spa. The bodywork is the biggest job, there's no doubt about that. The brakes, suspension, putting it all back together, electrics, everything. We haven't even found anyone to do the interior yet either.
No.
So, help!
Next time, the boys work flat out to get their bug ready for paint.
No, I don't think it'll look that good on the Beetle, to be quite honest with you.
But with the big dub show just weeks away, let's hope they've got a plan B.